Hey everybody, welcome to part 4 of my mini-series in painting Stormcast Eternal Liberator from the Age of Sigmar games. In this video I hope to add the next layer of paints onto the miniature. In the last video, of course, we reapplied the base colour after applying the shade, and as you can see now that all the paints have dried, the raised areas such as like the pectorals and the edge of the knee guard there, for example, the gold's really come out quite nicely in it. As always, we are going to start with the shield, but I thought I'll bring the whole model into the picture first just so you can see what we're doing. We'll start with the reverse of the shield, and we're going to go with the gold to begin with. Now, I think I covered this in a previous video, that quite a few of the metallics, they tend not to show up too well on a miniature whilst you're painting them, but whilst the paint is wet, if you will. Some do, some go on really nicely, others don't. And I find that Auricoma Gold, the recommended layer paint for this stage painting a Stormcast, or Hammers of Sigmar anyway, is this colour. However, I do stand by using it because although it might not go on as pronounced as you'd like it, pronounced is the wrong word, but vividly. There you go. It might not go onto the model as vividly as you'd like it. It does go on. I promise you that. It might be that as we apply it to the model, the actual main body of the Liberator himself, I'm just going to move the camera right a little bit, it comes out a little bit better, but generally I find it doesn't go on that great, but once it's dried, it's evident it's there. So use sparingly if you're gonna follow this video as a tutorial, which again, hugely flattered, yet you might be woefully disappointed. There are better tutorial videos out there than mine, far better. As I said, this series of videos is as much for me and my process and enjoyment as any who might get any level of enjoyment from watching me paint. And for any of you, and I noticed that the first 3 videos have now had quite a few views, so thank you very much, my viewers. I noticed as well that I got my very first subscriber the other day. First ever, and it still only sits at 1 subscriber, and that's fine. You know, I didn't do this to get hits or to get subscribers as such, but it was weirdly quite nice. It was like, oh wow, I finally got a subscriber. If you are that subscriber, and you know who you are, do drop me a message. I will thank you. If not within a video, I'll certainly send you a thank you message. Might not seem like a lot to a lot of folks, but it meant a lot to me. So whoever you are, you know who you are. Thank you. And again, if you do get in touch, I will send you a wee message to that effect. But anyway, I digress, as is my wont on this channel. So you'll notice I'm applying, where I can, the Auricoma Gold to the majority of the gold parts, not all, granted, but parts where the light is naturally falling on the model. Now, obviously, I'm looking at the model slightly differently to how you guys will be, because I'm at a slightly different angle. I'm above the phone, for example, that's doing this recording. But where the light naturally falls, or where I feel it should fall on the model, that's where I'm applying the gold. And I'll do the same in the next stage as well with the Liberator gold paint, which is more of a, honestly, it feels more like a silver, to be honest. But you'll see that when I get around to the next level of painting, you'll see that. But and again, little tip for anybody who is, for whatever reason, using these videos as a tutorial: if you're in ever any doubt as to where you should apply this layer, this highlight layer, and bear in mind, you're always going to be like, you're moving the model around as you try to get the correct angles and what have you. If you're in ever any doubt, reposition the model in, relative to the light source that you're using, to where you envisage it. Like I've got it positioned at the moment, so the light's falling on the helm and the top of the pectoral and the shoulder guard, so I know where I want to apply the gold. And then it's a case of just moving the miniature around to work with your brush. Again, it's a 3D medium. Let the model do the work. But always keep going back to that original pose, that original placement of light on the miniature. Keep knocking it out of focus. I do apologise, folks. So you can, as faithfully as you can anyway, apply the lighter shade of gold, or for that matter any colour you're going with really, to the correct place on the model. Now some folks prefer to go, like apply each layer to the whole plate, or I've just applied a wee line of gold here, for example. That's where the light's naturally falling on the leg plate, with a little overlap, say. Some folks would prefer to do the whole like this. As I said in all my videos so far, to be fair, excuse me, there is no right way, there is no wrong way. Do what makes you feel good, whatever works for you, whatever makes you happy, that's the right way. Who am I, or who's anybody for that matter, to tell you how to do your painting, how to make your art your own. I'm nobody, to be honest. I'm some random northern guy who has decided to create himself a wee little channel on YouTube to demonstrate the little models he paints and the process he follows. I'm not a teacher of art. I'm barely a student of art. I think I said in a previous video I did do A-level art, but it was only to make up the credits. Ironically, when I was doing that A-level, it was the best A-level I got. The A-levels I wanted to do better in, I was an average student. Whereas art, well, I don't mind admitting, I got an A. Or an A star. It was an A, certainly. That was a very, very, very long time ago. When I was a much, much younger man. Barely a boy, if I'm honest. Let's get a nice... Here's a nice example of the chisel effect I was talking about, where you try to flat edge the brush, give that nice squared off effect, and then so very, very lightly apply it onto the digits of the fingers. Oh, it keeps falling out of focus. I am really not good at filming. And again, make sure you get enough paint on. It is quite a... It's not a very heavily pigmented paint, I find, Auric Gold. Well, actually, I don't know that for a fact. It could have loads of pigment in it. It could be just the makeup of the medium that holds it that makes it quite makes it feel watery. But it's certainly one of those paints where you can afford to never overload your brush, but you can certainly afford to load it. You know, don't get stingy with that paint. Really, you'll find you're probably applying quite a bit of it to your palette, and that's fine. That's why we do this thing. That's why we buy the paints. But as you can see, I mean, it's going on wet, so you can't, as I said at the top of this video, you might not be able to see too well where the paint's being applied to. But certainly, as it's drying, and in some areas where it is actually showing up quite nicely, you can see that the gold's going on real nice. It's lifting the model again. So in the previous step, we reapplied the base colour, the Retributor base armour, I think it was called, and the gold bit to lift it from the all over shade that I applied with the Reichland flesh shade. And then this process again is once again lifting the areas of the armour that I want to especially catch the light. Pull out of focus there, sorry folks. Yeah, as you can see, it's just looking that little bit brighter. It's no longer that. If we look at the model's right hand leg, where I've not applied any of the auric armour yet, it's a nice gold. It's a warm gold. It's still quite flat though. Whereas if we say look at the chest, where the paint might more or less have dried by now, or the helm, you've got a nice lift to it, which will then be accentuated. Is that the right word? Yeah, accentuated in the next stage. But we'll get to that. Maybe if not in this video, certainly the next one. Okay, let's get the rest of this right arm done. And as you can see, I'm using the paint quite sparingly. I'm not using it across the entire model. That's just my personal preference. Again, some folks prefer to, when they add a layer, really cover almost all of the plate. Well, that's fine. It's up to them how they do their thing. And I think perhaps I might, like on a character model, I did promise a video or two ago that when I come around to painting a proper character model, like my Lord Castellan, for example, there'll be more evidence of wet blending and shading in general. I was certainly looking at the halberd that he carries. Beautiful weapon. Plenty of scope for, you know, really creating a nice, not mirrored effect, but certainly a nice reflective surface on the blades of the weapon. And I will do that because it is, well, as I said, I think in the previous video, he will be the general of my 1,000 point army, for better or worse, bless him. So yeah, you want to take a little bit of time. He's going to be, nominally, he should be on the battlefield a lot longer than the rest of the troops. Of course, my brother tends to target my generals quite early on, so maybe he won't. Who knows? He's certainly a robust character. He can take those hits. But because he is a character model, and because there's a lot more detail to the model, there's a lot more to look at, a lot more to see. You know, you want to take, or at least I want to take a bit more time with it, as I do with all my character models, whether it's a Space Marine captain or even a lieutenant. Even the primes, the Liberator prime of each of these squads, I'll have a little more time applied to them. Not a great deal, granted, but some, that little bit of extra. That little bit of extra love, shall we say. Yeah. Man, that sounded pretentious. You all know what I mean. I think that's as much auric armor gold applied to this model as needs to be applied to this model. Apart from the fascia of the shield, of course. Maybe the erector spinae here. Yeah, I think I'm done with that. Okay, so let's temporarily attach the shield back to the model so we can get that stability on the shield whilst I paint it. Let's reload up my palette, make sure I've got enough gold for all the gold bits on the shield. Same principle, really, Find where the light drops. Apply the gold to those bits. I said it in the previous video, and I'll probably bore you to death with how many times I do say it, but I really do get a kick out of these models. I mean, they're fairly basic models now, especially when you look at the Thunderstrike models. I will at some point paint a Thunderstrike Vindicator, which is the Thunderstrike Brotherhood equivalent of a Liberator, of course. And they're even nicer. Good lord, they're nice. These Liberators, they just stand out. They're the eponymous Stormcast Eternal. Everyone knows what a Liberator is. You immediately recognise it. If you've had the privilege of heading down to GW in Nottingham, there's a dirty great statue of one in front of the building. It's great, I love it. And they're so very, as the Marines are to 40k, the Liberators are to Age of Sigmar. They're so, what's the word I'm looking for? They're so fixed into the notion of the setting. There we go. Nice. I'm quite happy with that. Yeah. And again, it will, as the paint dries, cures, to use the correct term, it will, the gold that I've just applied will become more evident. And especially when I come onto the Liberator gold, which is the next layer up, that's where you do the edge highlights, just to really pick out those, like if I bring my brush back into the picture, like the edge of the top of the pectoral, for example, or where is that no, it's not a van brace. Van brace is on your forearm, isn't it? But where the light would naturally bounce on the face guard there, just below the helm, the peak of the helm. You really want to just touch gently with the Liberator gold. But I am going to wait to apply the Liberator gold until the auric armor gold has had a nice chance to cure properly. As I said, I may wait until the next video to do that level. I'll see how I feel, see how the rest of the evening goes on. But anyway, let's move on to the blue. Now, I don't know exactly which colours Games Workshop recommend for the blue. I could look it up, but I tend to enjoy using Liberator blue and Hoeth blue, and even then I use mid-tones, because the blue is such a, although there's not a lot of blue on the Hammers of Sigmar models, it does stand out because of it, and it's such a bright and vibrant and bold colour. So this is where I will actually use mid-tones, so I'll use like a 50-50 split between the base colour, which was Cantor blue, and a layer top blue, and so on and so forth. So, layer top blue first. The veteran painters out there in the world will notice that I have gone from a metallic paint to a non-metallic paint, and the purists out there might be aghast at that. For those who aren't quite in the know, if you look into the water, you can see particles of metallic paint drifting around. You should really have 2 separate water pots, one for metallics, one for non-metallics. Really, if you're going to get purist, you should change your water regularly as you go from light to dark and so on and so forth. With a character model, I would absolutely do that. But again, Frontline Trooper, bless it, it's maybe not. Maybe when I go from blue to pink, I might change it. Again, probably not. There you go, and you can see just a very light touch of this 50-50 mix of Liberator blue and Canto blue is already serving to lift the nice folds on that, the terre rouge and the tabard. Just a light touch. You don't want to do too much. You don't want to wash out the Canto blue and for something to be a highlight, there has to be something darker for it to highlight from. But it's a nice primer for the next level. As you can see, it's already started to lift the blue. It's quite nice. With the shoulder pads, again, there is an element of less is more, but I do like to lift them quite a bit. Just noticed that my mix is possibly a little too dark, light at the moment. No, it's just a little bit too dark. It's striking that nice balance. But here we go. That's nice. Just a gentle application of the paint on a raised surface. You notice I'm leaving like the deeper recess as it meets the edge of the pauldrons. I'm leaving that darker blue. Again, adds a nice sense of depth to the model. And already that's lifted it. I'm not going to stop there. I'm going to go into another level of blue later on. Not much more. Maybe only in a mid-tone up, so maybe pure layer top blue. But not much. According to the lore, of course, the blue of the Hammers of Sigmar is meant to represent the storm-racked skies that they ride the lightning on as they descend upon the battlefield. It's a nice conceit. I just think it looks good. Imperial blue plus gold. It just looks very regal. It looks like the immortal warriors of a god king, and yeah. And again, you think Age of Sigmar, you can't help but think of those golden grim-faced warriors, the Stormcast Eternals, and marching across the battlefield to the destruction of their enemies. What better than a big regal blue and gold display of honour and courage, bravery, all of that. Nice. Now, those keen-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I have not gone, first of all, to the rear of the shield, as I normally do. Principally because, as I said right at the very beginning of this video, the series even, I like to give some detail to the inside of the shield, but not too much. It is just rank and file after all. That blue and that gold is sufficient as far as I'm concerned. I haven't yet glued the shield on because I will be applying a transfer to this shoulder pad, and it's a nightmare trying to do it when the shield's in the way. But I will apply some onto this front side of the shield. So again, if I just find where my light naturally falls onto where I want it, which is nice here on the raised lip of the gold, and it's just a simple case of very peacefully, very gently, just apply my paint to where it would naturally sit. expanse of a shield, so the highlight would cover the majority of it. And again, I am not a professional painter. I'm not a master painter. Good Lord, I'm not even great. I'm reasonable. I imagine anybody who's watching who is even a little bit better than me, or has a better idea of colour theory and light, maybe looking aghast at what I'm doing on the shield, going, that's not how light falls. And you're probably right. However, I think it looks nice. And there you go. First layer of the blue. Wasn't too hard. Nicely on. I'm going to just cover this edge up here because the gold spilt over a little bit on the edge. I don't think you can see, there you go. On the trim of the shield. And I don't want it doing that. Some folks really like to go for the battle damaged look on their minis. I have tried it, not to much success either, I must admit, on various models. I'm not that keen on the look. I think if it's done well, it enhances an already really pretty model. But I can't yet do it well, and I've no real desire to learn. I quite like it when my models look nice and shiny and bright, and yeah. Okay, right. That's the first layer of the blues on. Let's go to our pink. And again, with the pink, I'm going to do the same as I do with the blue in that screamer pink, lightly highlighted with Emperor's Children, and just layer it up. So it's going to be a 50-50 split to begin with. Or probably actually not even 50-50 to be fair. More probably like a 60-40 or even a 70-30 split. We'll see how as I mix the colour into my palette, I'll get a feel for it. Bit more Emperor's Children, I think. Just shake them up. Oh yeah, there we go. And again, because it's such minute detail, I'm sorry if I screw up the lens focus. You just ever so slightly touching the brush to the raised parts, just letting it gently fall. I'm not even sure my phone's very good. Given I'm using my phone to make these videos, I'm quite impressed with the quality of them so far. It isn't a professional camera. I can't zoom in with it. I'm also not that great a videographer. In fact, if I'm only a reasonable painter, I am a very poor videographer. Which is, given the amount of friends I've got who work in film, and have tried in earnest and perhaps in vain to teach me over the years how to make a good shot, or I understood the basics, but yeah, some lessons just don't stick. I think when it comes to cameras, I'm generally better in front of them. I'm not that great in front of them. As any of my drama school colleagues and former colleagues could tell you, I'm a comparable actor at best. But that's nice. Let's nicely raise the ridges of the tape around the hafts of the handles of the hammer and the gladius. Alright, that's not too bad. I'm going to move back to the blue. No, I'll move back to the blue next, I think. I'll work on the gold and the silver highlights last. There is a method to my madness. One, I don't feel that the gold will have finished curing by now. And two, The blue especially, as it dries, and it dries very quickly, you can apply the new paint onto it almost immediately and get that nice feel. So yeah, anyway, I'm waffling, apologies. But I've now just gone with a pure Alea Top Blue, no mix with the Cantor. And as you can see, it's nicely lifting again the edges of the Terre Rouge. Wherever there's a lifted part of cloth, it just nicely falls onto it. Such a nice, to be honest, the blues in general, all the blues that I use, whether it's Cantor or Leotok, Hoeth, never had much colour from ultramarine blue, but they're very densely pigmented paints. They're great. They're just great. They go into those models real nice. Just turn him upside down briefly just to get the edge. That's nice. Yeah. Now, you'll notice that this time I'm probably not. I might give it a slight nudge here where the crease meets the flat of the main panel, but just a nudge. And again, on the lip here with but I quite like that deep dark blue on the shield, especially when you put the lightning bolt transfer on later on. It really stands out from having that slightly darker background. And again, I'll probably give it a little bit of gold just around the hammer and the lightning bolts, just to give it that illuminated feel around the lightning, especially. Ooh, went over the gold there. Just a shade, a small touch, nothing serious. It just gives it that kind of almost corpuscent glow, not quite. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over specific edges again, real raised edges, with another application of the Alea Top Blue. And then in a moment I'm going to apply some Hoeth Blue to it, just to really lift those edges. Okay, let's do that now. So again, we're adding the Hoeth Blue to the Alea Top, about a 50-50 mix. You don't want it too bright. Hoeth's really quite pale. And now I'm just going to pick out certain parts which lift the model. So I found my light, there it is again. Okay, and it's literally just along the edge of this Terre Rouge here. And along the middle of the bit here. Along the edge of this Terre Rouge. And again, it's those areas where you know the light's gonna naturally fall the sharpest. So even less of it's being highlighted now. That's because only certain parts of it are really going to capture that edge. And that kind of comes with observation, practice. You know, as you paint more, you get to learn to. God, it sounds awfully pretentious, this, but develop an eye for where the light should fall onto the model and where you should be putting your really brightest of edge highlights. Nice. I'm quite happy with that. And again, same with the shoulder pads. Just going to bring it onto those very sharp edges on the lift of the pad itself. Yeah, looks nice. And then again the shield, if we just reapply his shield to his hand. And again, let's just get some more layer tuck in there as well. And again, we're not going to even touch the flat of the shield this time. We're just going to go along the edges. Really capture those sharp edges of the shield to lift it. Just a light touch. Just let the brush just like skate along the edge. Just gently. These things are really pretentious, but kiss the edge of the shield. I think I've gone a little bit too far on it there actually. But that's fine. It's not, again, it's rank and file. And then lastly, let's just get some pure Hoeth on there. Really try and capture the vertices of the shield here. Vertices are the right term? I'm not sure if it is actually. I don't think it is. Just a very, very point. Again, maybe just the edge here. So it meets the gold. I think I will. You know what? I'm gonna be brave. I'm gonna add a little bit of the darker layer tuck just around the lightning bolts to lift them slightly. So that when I actually paint up the white on them, again, it'll hopefully give us that nice corpuscent effect of the lightning bolt itself. I'm not sure if it'll work or not. I can try something. If it works, great. If it doesn't, well, it's no great loss. Okay. And that, folks, I think I'm done for the blue there. Wow, that was real fast. Let's finish the pink off on the haft of the hammer and the Gladius. So again, we're going to apply a bit more Liberator, Emperor's Children layer to the Screamer Pink Emperor's Children mix I had previously. So we're now at about a 50-50 split, if I'm honest. I'm going to load up my brush, get it to a nice fine point, and we're just going to delicately touch the edge, the points there, where the tape's raised. Just let the brush touch it, just so it's catching the light. You don't want too much. If you get too much on it, it gets a bit garish. That's fine. And again, with the haft, we're just fanning those edges. There's gentle touch to where the light would naturally fall. Again, just gentle, ever so gentle, just a butterfly's kiss. Love that term. Butterfly's kiss of a touch of the brush. Maybe even gone a bit too heavy there actually. There we go. Well, there we go. It's, you know, it's never going to win any painting prizes, but it lifts the detail of the handle tape, or whatever the correct terminology of it is. Again, it's not perfect, but it stands out on a tabletop. You know, if you were looking at that on a tabletop, oh yeah, I can see detail on the hammer there. Nice. All right, okay. Oh. Let's have a look where we're up to then. Here's our Liberator. Not looking too shabby. I've painted worse. I've painted better. What I will do is, I think I am going to stop the video roughly about here. As I said earlier on in this video, it's best to allow metallics to cure a little bit before you apply the next layer on, just so you can see where you've applied the most recent layer. For me anyway, as the metallics dry, they cure. As they cure, they stand out better. And I'm fine with that. I have no problem with that. But yeah, nice little 40-odd minute video. If anybody has been watching this, thank you very much. It's very kind of you. If you are so minded, please like and subscribe. If not, that's cool too. Thanks anyway for watching, and I shall see you in the next one. Ta-ta!